Yellowstone. Nature's most ambitious pressure cooker, where yellow isn't so much a color as a warning label, and stone is Earth's idea of a lid on a pot that's perpetually about to boil over. We named it for its most superficial feature, some yellow rocks, rather than the fact that it's essentially a continent-sized game of the floor is lava, where the game isn't entirely metaphorical. It's like naming a volcano Smoky and acting surprised when it does more than smolder. Yellowstone TV. Shakespeare and Stetson's, or as I like to call it, Succession with significantly more horse manure. A show where family business means both running a ranch and occasionally running people off cliffs. How the name works double duty here. Like the park it's named after, it's about a piece of precious American soil that everyone wants to control, and like the supervolcano beneath, there's always something explosive brewing under the surface. Rather fitting for a show where dinner table conversations have a higher body count than most people's actual gunfights. In the French tele-realite to cowboys tradition, it's a soap opera where the bubbles are made of bourbon, and in German television terms, it's a Familiendrama mit Pferden, family drama with horses, though that rather undersells the frequency with which characters need to dig shallow graves. Like calling a hurricane a stiff breeze, or a tsunami a bigger-than-average wave. It's as if the first explorers, faced with a landscape that regularly punches holes in itself to release steam, decided to focus on the interior design choices. It's become the Dallas for a generation that thinks oil is passé but still believes all their problems can be solved with enough acreage and ammunition. A show where legacy means both what you leave your children and what you leave in the local obituary column. In essence, a term that has come to mean a family business where HR complaints are handled with rope and a horse. A term that has become a metaphor for beautiful disaster waiting to happen. Gorgeous on the surface, but concerning amounts of pressure building underneath, as in their startup's financials are a bit Yellowstone, or in the company meeting got a bit Yellowstone when someone suggested selling the parking lot. Yellowstone, a Shakespearean tragedy, wearing cowboy boots and carrying an American Express black card. A billionaire rancher fighting to preserve a way of life that requires destroying others' ways of life to maintain. John Dutton is essentially King Lear with a helicopter, ruling over a kingdom that's simultaneously priceless and worthless, depending on which developer is making an offer that week. The show performs a fascinating sleight of hand. It's anti-capitalist commentary wrapped in a capitalist fantasy. Every episode essentially whispers, money is destroying our way of life. But isn't it gorgeous to look at? It's like watching someone critique materialism while wearing a $5,000 cowboy hat. Consider the brilliant Beth Dutton, a character who embodies Wall Street ruthlessness while claiming to protect Montana from becoming too commercial. She's basically a hedge fund manager with daddy issues and a vocabulary that would make a sailor blush, and then apologize to their mother. The show's treatment of Native American characters is particularly telling. It acknowledges historical injustices while simultaneously suggesting that the real tragedy is that rich white ranchers might lose some of their land. It's like watching colonialism get a LinkedIn makeover. And then there's a violence, stylized, frequent, and apparently the go-to HR policy at the Yellowstone Ranch. It's presented as both a necessary evil and a form of cosmic justice, like if karma wore spurs and carried a branding iron. The gender layer. Notice how the show performs an elaborate dance with masculinity. Rip Wheeler is essentially toxic masculinity that's been given a redemption arc and a good hat. He's what you'd get if you asked AI to generate the perfect man using only Marlboro ads and romance novel covers as training data. The class warfare ballet. The show pulls off a remarkable feat, making billionaires seem like underdogs. It's like watching Marie Antoinette complain about cake prices. The Duttons are essentially the 1% cosplaying as the 99%, except their version of living off the land includes private helicopters and political dynasties. The dialogue layer. Every conversation is a masterclass in what I call Western existentialism, philosophy that can be delivered while either on horseback or holding whiskey. It's like if Nietzsche wrote a ranching manual. The time warp. The show exists in a fascinating temporal space where characters must simultaneously be savage enough for the Old West and sophisticated enough for Wall Street. It's like watching cavemen discuss hedge fund strategies. The political subtext, every land dispute, is basically a microcosm of American political history. Except in this version, the wealthy landowners are somehow the revolutionaries. It's like the American Revolution, as told by the tea importers. The family dynamics. The Dutton family puts the dis in functional with such style that they make the Roy family from Succession look like the Brady Bunch. Every family dinner has the potential to end in either murder or a hostile takeover, sometimes both. American myth meet modern entertainment. The anthropological layer. In our deepest dig yet, we uncover the show's most fascinating paradox. It's essentially a documentary about the death of the American West that's actively participating in killing the American West. The train station isn't just a disposal site for bodies. It's a metaphor for how the show dumps its own contradictions off a cliff. The meta-economic impact, the Montana paradox. The show both glorifies and mourns the commercialization of the West. Each episode is essentially saying, look how terrible it is that this pristine landscape is being exploited, while simultaneously serving as a feature-length tourism ad for Montana. The show about preserving Montana from outsiders has turned Montana into the ultimate outsider destination. Real estate agents should credit Taylor Sheridan as a co-broker on every sale. It's like writing a hit song about how music has become too commercial. The real tragedy isn't the death of the Old West. It's that the show's critique of modernization has become the most effective marketing campaign for that modernization since the railroad. Every episode might as well end with, if you enjoyed watching us lament the destruction of this way of life, why not buy a piece of it? The ritual violence. The show's treatment of violence deserves its own doctoral thesis. Every fight scene is choreographed like a ballet where the dancers occasionally need dental work. It's ritual combat for an age where we've replaced tribal initiation ceremonies with corporate team-building exercises. The linguistic archaeology. The dialogue operates on multiple levels. Characters speak in a mix of cowboy koans, corporate jargon, and what I call Western noir. It's as if Raymond Chandler and Louis L'Amour had a baby, and that baby got an MBA. The cultural acceleration. The show has created a feedback loop of cultural transformation. It critiques the commercialization of the West while being one of the primary engines of that commercialization. Each episode is like a critical theory paper that turns into a real estate brochure halfway through. The Rip effect. Rip Wheeler has become such an archetype that he's actually changing how real cowboys see themselves. It's cultural evolution in real time. Life imitating art, imitating life, imitating a Marlboro ad. The Dutton divergence. Each Dutton represents a different way America sees itself. John, the myth America tells itself about its past. Beth, the ruthlessness America pretends it doesn't need. Case, the innocence America wishes it could maintain while doing violence. Jamie, the compromise America makes with itself daily. In essence, Yellowstone has become a self-aware myth that knows it's a myth but keeps myth-making anyway. It's like Don Quixote tilting at windmills while simultaneously developing them as luxury condos. Yellowstone has achieved something remarkable. The show has effectively created a new genre, the self-fulfilling prophecy Western. The evolutionary loop. The show has created what I call the Dutton effect, where actual ranchers begin adopting the mannerisms of actors playing ranchers, playing idealized versions of ranchers. It's cultural evolution with a Hollywood script doctor. The terminal monetization. Even the show's anti-capitalist message has been perfectly monetized. You can now buy officially licensed Yellowstone merchandise to show your support for the fight against commercialization. It's like wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt to a shareholders meeting. The show's greatest achievement might be creating nostalgia for a present that's disappearing largely because of the show itself. It's like a nature documentary that requires cutting down the forest to film in. Yellowstone isn't just about the Dutton legacy. It's become part of the very process it critiques. It's the mirror that changed what it was reflecting. The show has transcended television to become a perfect encapsulation of modern American cognitive dissonance, a critique of capitalism that's making everyone involved very, very rich, a lament for the dying West that's hastening its transformation, and a celebration of authenticity that's entirely synthetic. As he champions environmental causes from his private jet, he's reached peak Yellowstone levels of self-awareness. Or in My Environmentalist Friend Just Bought a Hummer, he's really pulling a Yellowstone on this one. Or their corporate ethics seminar went full Yellowstone when they started discussing hostile takeover strategies. It's the ultimate American koan, a story about fighting change that has become an agent of change, told through the medium of unchanging change. And perhaps that's the most Yellowstone thing about it all.